I've been in the industry since 1977, so I've seen a lot of changes from no computers to computers, and the sophistication that people go to take people's money out of their bank account. So there's a number of ways you can protect yourself, and I'm just going to tell a little bit about the power of attorney from the bank's perspective. We have a lot of people come in and say, I want to put my daughter or my son on my bank account. I don't want to spend all the money for a power of attorney and go to a lawyer. We do not recommend that. We take and suggest that you get a power of attorney from the lawyer. At one time, the bank would provide our own power of attorney that you could quickly sign and put in place. We no longer offer that because there's so many different legal aspects of a power of attorney, and ours in the branch did not cover it. So the two main reasons we advise people to get a power of attorney and not put a family member or an acquaintance on their account are, first off, the person becomes an owner of that bank account. So if, for instance, one of them goes through a marital split up, the money is viewed as marital assets and could be given to the spouse of the person that's getting divorced, and in most cases, the senior whose bank account it is can lose their life savings. Second reason we ask you not to put people on joint in your account is the same reason the person you put on is being sued for an accident or some other form of lawsuit. The money is viewed as that person's money, and it could go towards the settlement for that lawsuit, and usually again the senior would be out their life savings. So power of attorney is a different way of doing your business and having someone help you with your banking, and we highly recommend that. We try to discourage people from adding someone to the bank account for those two main reasons. Okay, the other thing to talk about is your bank card and your PIN number. That is the biggest fraud there is right now in any financial institution, and the big reasons that we do that is we ask people to change your PIN number from time to time. We ask you not to use familiar information like your birth date, your phone number, your postal code, or part of your SIN number. Someone steals your wallet, those are the ones they go through first, and they will take and be able to use access to your bank account. The other thing is don't write it down. Don't tell anybody, don't write it down. A financial institution, we don't need your PIN number. A lot of scams going out right now. You get a phone call, hi, this is so-and-so from the Royal Bank. We need to know your PIN number. There's a problem. Don't. Never, ever give your PIN number to anybody. Family member, financial institution, anybody. That is your private electronic signature, and that's how they can get in and out of your bank account. We don't need it. Nobody else needs it. If there is an instance where you are unable to get to the bank, don't give your card and your code to somebody to go get your money out for you. Call your bank and ask them if there's another way. We usually suggest you write that person a check and let us know they're coming in to cash it in with ID, and we can give them the money and they can take it back to you. So it's very important to protect that bank card and your PIN number. The other scam with it is you're in a restaurant and you're going to pay by your Visa card or by your bank card. Don't let the server take that card away from you. You need to swipe it through the machine at all times. If they take it away, they can take and put it through another machine that will take all the information off the back of it, and then you will lose your money if they can take it out of your bank account. So those are the two areas that from the day-to-day banking. If you think you have anything going on in your bank account or a problem or an issue, come in and talk to us. That's what we're there for. We can help you solve the issues. If you think someone has access to your account, come in and talk to your bank. At the back, I've left some flyers about other ways that you can protect yourself with your computers and with your personal information. It's very important. People are very smart. When you think you've got one scam shut down, they always come up with another one. So don't give anybody your PIN number or any of your information. Okay? No. No, what usually happens is a joint account, husband and wife, one of the people pass away, we ask you bring in the death certificate, and then it just all goes in the other person's name. Okay, no. If it's joint, as long as we have the death certificate. No, we prefer the one that the funeral home issues. All right, we need the original. I can't speak about other financial institutions, but at ours they can be 4, 6, or 8, or anything in between. Nope, you can have numbers. The only problem with that, if you get to a machine who doesn't have the buttons on it like a telephone that has both the number and the letters, then you could have an issue. That's the only reason they're suggesting numbers. Okay? No, there isn't. A tax-free savings is you name a beneficiary and it becomes that individual. So there's no taxation or anything on that. If it's spouse.
Yeah. So as long as it's being the beneficiary named as a spouse, then it'll pass over to, the surviving spouse with no tax. If it's someone other than a spouse, they don't have that privilege, so it becomes, they get the money, but there would be a tax event triggered.
It's the same as a registered plan. If you name a beneficiary, then it does not form part of the will and the wishes of that. A lot of people who want it to go through their estate will probably name a beneficiary saying estate through the estate, not a specific person's name.
Yeah. So in other words, if you have a tax-free savings account and you don't have a surviving spouse, or you don't want the money to be distributed that way, you want it to go into your estate and be divided up as you've named in your will, then just leave it without a beneficiary and name estate. It's just an asset, a financial asset. Yep, forms all of your assets.
Well, I can't speak on other financial institutions. I can just say what we do at RBC. When there's funeral expenses or say some utility bills and things like that, we do pay them out of the bank account because they are existing expenses that need to be paid. But anything with giving money to beneficiaries in the will doesn't happen until everything is completed. Depending on the size of the estate. Right, at death. And if you have a home and things like that, you will probably require letters of probate. But as Janice has said in the past, it's not as expensive as people usually think.
I wanted to maybe talk about that.
So we'll switch a bit here.
Just to address the probate issue, because it's interesting, people say, well, I don't want my estate to be probated. I don't want all of this go through because the government's going to take half my money. That's not really correct. So, if you have a home and an investment account and collection of, maybe some antiques or whatever that all have value, what happens is, and Keith, probably wouldn't be able to address this as well, but it becomes part of an inventory of all of your assets. So people say, oh, well, the government's going to take half. No, in general, it's about 1.5% of the inventory. So, you're not talking a huge amount of money versus all of the things that could happen if you make all of these assets joint ownership. As Deb mentioned very clearly, they could be at risk, and that may not be intentional, but they're at risk. So probate is there to protect you you want to make sure, they make sure that this is the one and only will, and when that's done, then the executor, that takes off part of the liability for the executor as well, because now they know they're dealing with the right will. They can go ahead, they can proceed and make the proper decisions based on guiding, the will guiding them.
And it will
That's a tough
depend
one.
on your lawyer and and how they operate it. I've seen them come in 2 to 3 months, and I've seen them take a year. So it just depends on how your estate is set up and how complicated it is and how quickly your lawyer gets to it.
I mean, there's always that risk because people become incompetent and unable to deal with things. So, you know, we see things change. I would say that the executor could convert it to something that's not as variable, like a money market fund.
Or to a GIC
Yeah.
if they're concerned about it.
Yeah.
But I've never seen an estate go to zero.
You know, I've been in the business a long time. I have yet to see a mutual fund that lost 90% of its value. I would say that those were not mutual funds. They could be Nortel, because I've seen that, or RIM, or, yeah, not to pick on them. Right now, I know of one, we're trying to legally get this straightened around. The client is still alive, and there's a lot of Barrick gold in it. But those are not mutual funds. They've got individual stock holdings. And you know what? When you're not spread out, that can happen. But honestly, I've never, now labor-sponsored funds might be another one. But a typical, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this, you know, maybe touch on it, but typically you're not going to see such a big drop. But the executor can certainly come in. They can't dispose of that asset. But, you know, if it's a logical change, I don't think that that would ever be questioned. If they want to convert the mutual funds into money market to basically freeze the account value, you know, you're acting in the best interest of the beneficiaries and the estate. So that, you know, that's really the bottom line of it. So thanks a lot for inviting us to speak. And my name's Janice Damas. I'm an accredited financial planner with the Royal Bank in Port Dover. And I hold my Certified Financial Planning designation, and I'm a member of the Financial Planning Standards Council, which is a nonprofit organization which develops, promotes, and enforces professional standards in financial planning through the CFP certification. And I think that's something when you're dealing with investments is to look for certainly that certification, because we're held, all financial planners that are accredited and that work for the bank are held to a higher standard of conduct. I've been in the financial services industry for 40 years plus, and banking for over 10. Previously, I worked in the area, I specialized in the area of pensions, annuities, and legislation of registered plans. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, one of the things as a financial planner is, I want to talk about fiduciary duty, which I think, you know, Keith touched on. But I think this is really important, that I have a legal obligation to act in the best interests of the client. You know, as I mentioned, we're bound by a higher standard of conduct. And so I meet my fiduciary duty by placing the client's best interests above all else, and that I don't benefit from that position. So, you know, people are relying on us to give them the best advice and before they make decisions. And so, you know, we owe it to them to deal honestly and in good faith. And having said that, we all know in many different lines of work, there are people who act in this way, and there are people who act in for their own benefit. You know, whether it's putting your roof on the house or the hot water heater situation that Keith was talking about, or, you know, you're even going into a store and this really wasn't the appropriate item for you, but you walk out with it anyway. So this happens all across the board. But what can you look for? Like, what should you be watching for when you're dealing with someone, when you're now sitting down and you're doing investing? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I watch for too. But, because a lot of us, if you're an adult child, you may be coming in with your parent. Or they may be coming in alone and you may be having a discussion with them later. But the advisor should be spending probably 80% of that appointment time getting to know the client and understanding their financial situation. It should never be a walk in and I got a new product for you. That's not what you want to hear. So I mean, if I'm sitting in front of someone, I want to know all about them. To be honest, I'm interested in people. I find it fascinating. They have wonderful stories to tell. But are they living in their home? How are they doing? Is the home being kept up? Is it getting a little bit more difficult? How independent are they? Are they driving their car still? What's their marital status? Are they married or single, widowed? What are their sources of income? And is that a stable situation? Are they making their own financial decisions? What kind of investing have they done in the past? What kind of investments have they held? What is their understanding of these investments? What are they here for today? What's their objective? So what I'm trying to do is get a clear understanding of what it is that they need and they want, and try to kind of fit that. And it's interesting because I say this in interviews is people will come in and they'll say, oh, I've got this investment elsewhere. Oh, and what is that? I don't know. And I said, well, when you leave here, if we do something or we talk about something, I want you to at least have a really fundamental understanding of what kind of investments you're holding or what it is, whether it's a GIC or a mutual fund or some hybrid of that. I use a big marker and I write all of the salient points of our discussion on there. It goes in a folder. They can take it home. And this gets to one of my really big things, which is when you're making investment decisions, when you're sitting in front of a client, there should be no pressure. I would stress that no decision has to be made today. And if you've got someone in front of you that's telling you have to do this right now, today, no. There is just, I would be kind of pushing back. And unfortunately, with some clients who may be starting to have issues and, they're more easily persuaded, they're more vulnerable, then, they might tend to make a decision. Personally, as a financial planner, I'm not really comfortable. Say if someone sells their house, I've never really met them before, or I don't know them very well, maybe they're new to the branch. If they come in and they want to do something like right away, I'm actually saying to them, no, I think we should talk. I want to find out more about you and what your situation is. And I want you to come back and we're going to have another meeting because that's a cue. It's a, that thing where you're going, okay, why is it so important to do it today? Are they being sort of swayed or persuaded? Are they getting pushed from another area? I truly believe that that's not I do not want that coming from me. So you have the right, and it's appropriate to take time to review any of these decisions and to take that information home, discuss it with a trusted friend or family member, and if need be, come back in to see the advisor with that person for a second ear, picking up things, asking some different questions. And it's very difficult. It becomes so gray, and we had an interesting discussion. When a person is starting to show signs of dementia, and you're right, they can hide it. Sometimes it's very difficult to tell just where they are on this continuum of the disease. If I have any concerns, I'm generally going to hold back on this, maybe discuss it further, maybe suggest they bring someone trusted in to have this discussion. So it's a very difficult thing. The other thing that I would say and caution is that any proposal should include several options or choices, because there's no one solution. And you've got A, maybe it's a GIC, or B, it's a mutual fund, and it depends. So there shouldn't be just, this is the only thing, this is how you should go. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Make notes, and ask for handouts. And if you're not ready, just tell us. I'm not ready. Bring someone at the next appointment, and we'll go from there. So, there should be a clear path on this decision-making process. And we have to be compliant. It's extremely